Snack Eater. Hello there, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Platinum Impressions. Today, we are going to talk about the next iteration of the Metal Gear Solid series, because I swear I just can't get enough of this series, I swear to God. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater for the PS2. Or HD, because I'm looking at the HD version, because that's what I want to do. I like to play updated versions of games, man, okay? If there's one general opinion that I've heard about Metal Gear Solid 3, is that it's the best in the series. That's it. When my friends found out that I beat Metal Gear Solid 2, they were looking forward to me playing Metal Gear Solid 3, aka the best one, they said. So because of that, I honestly felt a little bit intimidated because the general opinion of my friends was just so strong. I mean, don't get me wrong, I knew I was going to like it, but I was afraid I wasn't going to like it as much as I did with MGS1, which honestly I still do. Plus, understandably, a lot of people were hyped that they were actually going to be playing as Snake throughout the whole game. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean Big Boss, because, you know, he's totally not Snake. That's right. Big Boss, the eventual basis for Liquid and Solid Snake from the previous entries. Snake in the 1960s, what? But he really is essentially Solid Snake through and through. Actually, no, he's not Solid Snake, he's Naked Snake. So, could this one be the one that people say is the best one for me? Well, let's get down with that premise, because it's a Kojima game. So of course there's going to be a lot of plot. So, spoiler timestamp. The year is... Actually, I'll let David Hayter take it away.
After the end of World War II, the world was split into two, East and West. This marked the beginning of the era called the Cold War.
In 1964, the Cold War between the US and Soviet Union is in full force, and our hero, Naked Snake, is sent into the USSR jungles of Russian jungle for a rescue op. Aided by radio, Kodak is the commanding officer of Foxhound. Major Zero, a paramedic named Paramedic, and that's about it. The other member doesn't really get introduced until later on. Finally, we have Snake's former mentor, simply known as the Boss. He's only there for like a few minutes until she mysteriously disappears from the radio frequency. Anywho, Snake is sent in to rescue defecting scientist Sokolov, who's developing this game's version of Metal Gear called the Shagohod, predecessor for all other Metal Gear models, despite the fact that you can see a little Easter egg of Metal Gear Ray from Sons of Liberty as a figure. And so we commence the Virtuous mission, where Snake proceeds to rescue Sokolov. However, a younger Revolver Ocelot shows up with his own faction of goons, along with his trademark that he never uses again after the 60s. He's dealt with rather quickly, and Snake and Sokolov almost make it to safety, but not before they're cut off by Colonel Vogan, leader of the enemy, and the Boss. The Boss announces that she's defecting to the Soviet Union and her Cobra unit, and she and Snake have a little CQC fight. But she's the master and he's the student, and she succeeds in defeating him and sending his ass down into the river. As the bad guys escape, Vulcan notices that a nuclear missile is in their chopper, and with an idea in his head to blame the United States for a nuclear attack, he launches the missile and blows up the research facility Sokolov worked at and pinned it on the Boss. One week later, Snake recovers from his injuries and is sent back out to once again rescue Sokolov, only this time with higher stakes. Snake's unit intercepts a phone call between the presidents of the US and the USSR, saying that Russia will retaliate with nuclear warfare unless the US can somehow produce proof that it was Vulcan that fired the nuclear missile. With only a week to prove the innocence of America, Operation Snake Eater finds Naked Snake sent to rescue Sokolov once more, dealing with the big Cobra unit people, and eventually taking on the Boss herself. with the assistance of the usual radio team, along with newcomer Sigint, who looks an awful lot like the DARPA chief on Metal Gear Solid 1 now that you actually think about it, and soon Eva, who helps Snake whenever she can, and is totally not a sex symbol. This is a game rated for adults. Holy crap. Okay, so that was honestly very easy. A general summary that was easy to write for once? Oh my god! I am doomed for Guns of the Patriots. That was very, very simple. That's the way I can only describe Snake Eater's story. Simple. Pretty much after the mind warp that was Sons of Liberty, it's very refreshing to see an MGS title actually take its overall plot and make it really, really simple. Pretty much that first hour of plot is exactly what you're going to expect for the rest of the game, with a little twisting and turning here and there. Of course, the real twists don't even happen until after the final battle, so yay? I mean, yay. But you know, them twists is good. I mean, really good, like, damn. But what the story lacks in complexity, it makes up for in character, because honestly, there is a lot of character, despite the vast majority of them being simple. The most development time actually goes to Naked Snake and Revolver Ocelot. Now this Snake, I really, really like this Snake. He actually shows emotion that integrates into the story instead of, you know, codec flavor text. Holy Jesus, yes. I mean, look, I like Solid Snake just fine. He can be badass, but why couldn't that cocky little smile that of Naked Snakes transfer over to Solid? I mean, come on. That stuff is awesome. It really is. Like, he can actually be really, really funny and actually really, really a nice guy. This is a nice guy. I want to be with him. I love him. I especially really, really love the dynamic between Naked Snake and the boss, and the ultimate finality of their battle was just amazing to play through and witness. It was honestly one of the most interesting visuals that I've ever seen in a video game, and it really did remind me of, you know, Inside the Moon from Majora's Mask, honestly. Young Ocelot is a cocky little bastard whose repeated encounters with Snake eventually opens up some sort of rivalry between the two. But seriously, cinematic programmers, there's only so much I can see of when Ocelot twirls his guns. Seriously, which is how MGS The Twin Snakes was inspired in. Oh, Jesus Christ. I mean, look, I like Ocelot, man. I really do. He's great to see on screen. Eva, well, she's the girl in every Bond movie who gets that man. Body parts. Press R1 to look at boobs. Game of the Year 2004. You know, other than those characters, I feel like Snake's partners really exist for radio conversations. Those fun Easter egg conversations you can still do are still really, really funny, like in Sons of Liberty. But when it came down to them contributing to the plot, they honestly barely do so, aside from Major Zero at times. But this goes for the villains as well. And, you know, to be fair, I like each of the villains' personality traits. But they're defeated and killed off and never heard from again, since the focus was clearly supposed to be on Big Boss. Pacing, however, is okay. So the beginning and end game are just loaded with cutscenes. Like, you can clearly see me skipping through some of those radio conversations, right? Like you could in the other Solid games, right? Well, it's like those conversations exist just to repeat the main objective, like over and over and over again. They have to spend like 5 minutes, just explaining, oh hey, you have to rescue Sokolov. Okay. See? Like, okay. Seriously, that's how it is. That's just how it is. In fact, I could go for a high-end Daisy now that I think about it. It's like, Snake, you have to rescue Sokolov. Get in there. Okay! Snake, the research facility where dude is being held. Snake, get in there. Okay! Like, Jesus, dude, I get it. Look, it takes nearly 30 minutes to start the actual video game inside the video game. And honestly, those high-end Daisy comics were right about this crap. And that's really saying something, considering that Sons of Liberty only took about 15 minutes to start. And it had a 40-plus minute cutscene just to get to the final boss. Now look, not to say that watching all the action happen wasn't fun. I mean, it was, but I finished the rest of the game from the first Groznygrad visit all the way to the credits, and I was drowned in cutscene hell with only like 40% game and 60% movie. I mean, like, okay, I guess maybe that makes sense. I guess. Man, Kojima's really taking it out of me. But if we were to talk about the actual video game here, this is basically the most fun I've had yet in the whole series. Pretty much anything that you could do in Sons of Liberty, you can do here. Maybe it's because this is a modified MGS2 engine. Anyway, you're in the 1960s and you no longer have any of that fancy Soliton radar system you had in Solid 1 and Solid 2. So you can rely on motion detectors and AP sensors and all that. But to be honest, I don't really think it's needed. This game's all about survival and trying not to get spotted as always, but those extra tools can be used to make things easier for yourself. But most of the time, I just don't really need them except for the occasional boss fight here and there. But there are things that help you out with stealth for added fluff. Snake can use the boss's technique that they've been perfecting for years, Close Quarters Combat, or CQC. With the proper weapons equipped, he can perform various grabs to the enemy in order to interrogate, kill, or just basically knock them out. This is really, really fun to do, especially that knockout maneuver where Snake just slams the guy into the dirt. Ooh, that sound effect is so satisfying. CQC is actually very, very useful in getting out of alert phases. Especially the whole dreaded caution phase, which I still don't like, that was added from MGS2. But since CQC is a thing, it's honestly barely an issue for me now. Another way to avoid detection is called the camouflage. Your clothes matter in the wild, so adapting to the proper background of the area is important for stealth. That percent meter at the top right of the screen is your camo index, and the more percent you have, the more invisible you get. Unless you're a dork and you want to wear face paint of the various country flags like I did. USA! USA! Or just simply using the Raiden mask from Metal Gear Solid 2, which I did during the intro because I picked the I like Metal Gear Solid 2 option at the beginning. Kojima's a funny troll. I also heard that the camo index is absolutely broken in the 3DS version, where you can take pictures of your various surroundings and raise your camo index to 100%, making you virtually undetectable. But more on that later. But it's not just camouflage or CQC that matters. It's also your stamina. See that meter below your health bar? That's your stamina. Your health regenerates based on how much stamina you have as well as your movement options. It drains gradually over time because you move around so much, and in order to restore it, you need food, which you have to find in the wild. Mushrooms, snakes, rats, bats, fish, basically any animal or any plant that you can shoot, you'll be able to use as food in order to restore stamina, even if the food tastes awful. Plus, sometimes you can get little cinematics where Snake eats a freaking python. Like, Jesus, he's the most metal thing ever. Those are pretty much entertaining to see, and maybe it's because I used to watch a lot of Man vs. Wild several years back. I find it so charming. I honestly have no problems with using this method personally, because it only makes sense that you're in the wild and you're trying desperately to survive. And you know, while you have to wait to regenerate health, I personally don't mind that either. Plus, Snake commenting on the foodie taste is actually also really charming. I really like Naked Snake, dude. He's just so damn funny and so good. What I do mind, however, is the surgery. After Snake's first encounter with the boss, he gets critically injured and paramedic introduces him to the survival viewer's cure option. Here, you can give Snake medicines for stomach aches, poisons, etc., and other such etceteras. While under the surgery, you'll be able to trait various wounds you get, whether it be burns, gunshots, bugs, and the like, and the pace is ruined. Think about it, in any other Metal Gear Solid game, especially the next one, Guns of the Patriots, you'd get rations to restore your health, and, you know, other such healing items as well, but here, health only comes back naturally, and unless you find some life medicine, you're basically going to be stuck just waiting around for your health to regenerate. Getting wounded and healing the wounds doesn't really restore the health either, it just sort of stops the injury. And even then, I don't even think you need the surgery. If you got full stamina, you can just simply wait for the injury to heal on its own because, again, health comes back naturally, at least. I relied on that as I got closer to the end, and, I honestly didn't really think that surgery was even needed, to be honest. Using the cure survival option breaks the pace on anything, especially the boss fights. And speaking of those, all of them are pretty much the best boss fights in the entire series. Like, all of them. And it's like I said before, I love the Cobra units despite them not really being that useful in plot. But I really like them because of their various personalities and theming. Like, you got the Pain, who uses bees, and the Fear, who like jumps around and uses camouflages and, just shoots you everywhere. And, the End! And, the Something! Once again in the series, shooting and blowing up people multiple times means victory if you can get past all the boss's gimmicks. Like the Pain's Hornets and the End sniping godness, the End, I'm just gonna say this, the boss fights of the End and the Sorrow are pretty much possibly some of my favorite boss fights in the whole series. Because, the End, he can be defeated either by doing the usual sniper fight, which, the atmosphere just fits just perfectly for the sniper environment. And plus, with no accompanying music and just the sounds of the forest, it's just so damn good and it's really creative. Plus, you can just beat him the easy way by screwing around with the internal clock on your PlayStation console, funnily enough. Like, the End is really, really old, and he'll die of age if you wait a week. Like, an actual literal week. Kojima's a funny man. And, the Sorrow is actually a really, really interesting boss fight too, because I'm just gonna say this as a friend said it, he is meta as F. He is meta AF. Because he takes you down a river of all the guys that you killed. No, not just the guy, no, literally. All the guys that Snake killed, including all the animals that he killed. It's so freaking good. It's really, really clever. Some of them are just straight up CQC fights too. And Ocelot is pretty much just a standard shootout as you would expect. Plus, again, final boss. Just a spectacle. Just a spectacle. It's just a damn shame that the surgery has to break up the pace on anything despite it being manageable. This is one continuous journey through the wilderness, buildings, sewers, etc. Pretty much you're always in a different area, meaning that you virtually have to do no backtracking at all, and that is greatly appreciated. It's like Kojima actually listened to the criticisms of Sons of Liberty. And it's like I said, you always have to adapt to the environment when you're going around through set pieces like the Maze Cave, which I hate, disguising yourself as Raiden's ancestor general guy, and going through the mountain ranges after climbing the Snake Eater ladder. It just adds a lot of variety to the journey. It also helps that, just like Breath of the Wild, there's barely any soundtrack at all, really making you feel like you're part of the wilderness. And honestly, I think it's more effective here than it is in Breath of the Wild. Don't get me wrong, it is effective in Breath of the Wild, because you're just exploring the open world, but here, you're actually just sneaking around through the jungle, and it's just so good. It's so good. And honestly, when it comes to, the actual music in the game, Harry Gregson Williams again. He really knows how to make an effective soundtrack. But the two that have to stand out to me are Battle in the Base, which is the alert phase theme of when you're inside a building, and pretty much my favorite song in the whole Metal Gear Solid series, to be honest, Snake Eater by Cynthia Harrell. I've been just listening to it on repeat ever since I first finished it. It's just so good. It's a really good song, pretty much an homage to old Bond films everywhere. Graphically, it looks just about as good as it does in Metal Gear Solid 2, but God, this whole game is brown! Like, it's mostly brown, and brown is such an uninteresting color to me. Like, okay, maybe I get that it's set in the 1960s and sepia tone is needed for that time period, pretty much set up just like an old movie. And, you know, it does make sense when, you know, you have those cutscenes where they're just showing like drawings of everything, or just showing like stock, you know, archive film footage of everything. But, you know, it's just kind of a nitpick to me ever since I first saw Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, because it just ruined brown for me. Yeah, I know. I'd be stretching it if I said that this game is brown, therefore it's ugly, because I have way too much fun with the game to even care. So, there's that. I mean, I can understand the brown use here. But, you know, when there's actual color, I'm like, actual color! There's actual color here! Oh my god! And now I honestly feel even more pain that Metal Gear Solid 3's graphics got remade with the Fox engine for the pachinko machines. Because we could have had color! We could have had color! Actual blue skies, actual brown mountain ranges, and everything else! But it's just like, oh my god! Yeah, I know, I'm sorry, I'll move on. Oh yeah, there's also a 3DS version too. Snake Eater was ported to the 3DS in 2012, and I've actually had the demo of it for the longest time, and I've honestly never got to experience it for myself. So I did check it out, and I have to say, frame rate. What is the frame rate? Because Jesus Christ. It's like it's running on inferior hardware, but it's almost like N64 Ocarina of Time levels of frame rate in 2012. But, you know, despite that, the game still plays relatively well. From the demo, at least. It's just that you need to get past the somewhat awkward control setup. The face buttons, the A, B, X, and Y, control the camera. Crouching and items are delegated to the D-pad, and third-person aiming was added from Guns of the Patriots. Without any gyroscope control. I mean, come on. Ocarina of Time 3D made it work. So why not here? I want to aim properly. I mean, I'd imagine that I need to get used to the 3DS setup and the broken as hell photo camo options if I ever get my hands on the 3DS port. But I'm not going to really look into it right now since, you know, my Switch and the eventual saving of my PS4 need the love right now. But I do have to say this. Thankfully, Snake Eater 3D does support, you know, the 3DS Circle Pad Pro and the new 3DS's little nub of a control stick. So, if you're playing on the new 3DS, you can just simply set the Circle Pro option to on, and there you go. You control the camera just like you normally would. So, there's that. Snake Eater manages to create a really fun gameplay experience out of the stealth action genre with well-implemented mechanics. The CQC is really fun, hunting for flora and fauna is really addicting, though if cooking was added, then that would be the greatest thing ever. Just saying. It gives a lot more character for a simple plot, and honestly, it's just super fun to me, you know? Despite the surgery mechanics, and the small issues here and there, and maybe some tiny little nitpicks as well. I can honestly definitely see why my friends call this the best in the Metal Gear Solid series, but is it my favorite? Well, it's honestly really tough for me to say, because part of me wants to say yes, because the gameplay is so much improved with a lot more techniques and variety. But at the same time, when it comes to balancing cutscenes and gameplay, it gets a little bit too much cutscene and not enough gameplay-ish for me at times. And I honestly think that MGS1 did that thing better, because, you know, before Snake Eater, MGS1 was my top Metal Gear game, because of what it managed to pull off for an old system. But, you know, I can sort of make a compromise for this. MGS1 and MGS3 are probably both my top picks for Metal Gear Solid, because, you know, MGS1 balanced the cutscene and movie better, and MGS3 has the best boss fights and the gameplay so far. If you're looking into the Metal Gear series, I think you'll have no problem starting off with Snake Eater, with no problem at all. Yeah, no problem at all, that's really redundant, because it is the whole origin story of the series. However, if you do want more enjoyment out of what you're getting into, then I'd probably suggest starting off with MGS1 first to see what's up. Snake Eater however, is still a really, really great time, and I can easily see myself going back to this one just to have a fun time. And so with that said, those were my thoughts on Snake Eater, and oh boy. Next time on Platinum Impressions, we're going onward to the 4th entry in the Metal Gear Solid series. We're going to look at the movie Guns of the Patriots. Here's hoping that at least the gameplay's good squeezed in between all that film. Hopefully. So with that being said, I will see you guys on the next time. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.